Hello! Today we're going to be talking about creating a new database. So before we get started, we should try to remember what a database actually represents. So a database is a collection of data organized in some well-defined way. And a relational database is actually a collection of different objects. You can call them containers, such as schemas, tables, functions or procedures, views, and other elements. Usually all those elements are somehow linked to each other. So the database is usually organized in such a way that it represents the actual structure of one or more real processes. For example, we could represent the customer order processing in a database, and our database would contain all the customers with details like customer name, customer address, contact information, and so on. We will actually have in the database all the products with product name, prices, availability, and so on, and the customer orders with the order date, number, and all the products ordered by each customer. So as you can see, a database actually tries to store the data well organized and in such a way that it represents the real processes that we are using in our daily businesses. So, in order to create a new database, we will be needing a tool, and this one is called SQL Server Management Studio. The latest version that we have here is version 17, actually 17.4, and we will be connecting our Management Studio to a SQL Server 2017 instance. And if you don't know how to do that, you can watch our previous video on how to connect to our SQL Server instance. We will be using the Windows authentication method, which means that we are accessing the SQL Server instance by using our current Windows user. So as you can see, we have here the actual authentication type and the actual Windows user that we are using right now. So let's connect to our instance, and first thing that we will see is the Object Explorer, which is our main toolbox for managing objects on a SQL Server instance. As you can see, we have the list of databases, we have some security options, we have some management options, and so on. These are more advanced topics that we will not cover right now, so we'll just try to limit ourselves to the basic instructions on how to create a database. So we will be using the graphical user interface to do that. There's of course a way of doing that by using the Transact SQL or the TSQL language. That's a more intermediate topic. We will have a separate lesson on that, but for now we will be using just the graphical user interface, or GUI. One thing to mention is that a user needs some special permissions in order to create a new database. So again, these are advanced topics. I will just mention the fact that you either need the create database permission in the master database, or you need the create any database or alter any database permission in order to be able to create a new database. In order to create our new database, we will right-click on the Databases item and we will click New Database from the Options menu. So here we have a dialog that has different options. First thing is to complete the database name, which will be the name of the database that we will be referring to. So we'll give the name sample1. So basically that's all that we have to enter in this dialog in order to create a new database with all the default options. I will just mention some of them so that you have an idea of what is going on here. So a database is actually a set of files that are stored on some storage, like a hard drive, and basically you need two files in order to have a working database. The first file is the one that stores the actual data, which here is shown as rows data file. This file will contain the actual information that you have in the database, like customers and orders and products and so on. And the second file that is actually mandatory is the log file. A log file is a file where SQL Server will log or write all the actions that were performed in the database, like adding or inserting data, deleting data, updating data, and so on. There are some advanced usages of the log files where you can actually go back in time and recover some data that was lost. These are all advanced topics. We will not be covering them right now. Of course, these files have to be stored somewhere. So, as you can imagine, we have a path or location for these files. Management Studio actually auto-completes these folders with a default location for storing data and the log files. In our instance, we have different location for the data files and a different one for log files. Of course, these two can be in the same folder or even in different drives, different partitions, and so on. So the file name is the actual physical file name that will be given to these logical file names. If we do not enter anything right here, the files will be named exactly as the logical database files. So we will be leaving them blank so they can be generated automatically. So we will click on OK, and after some processing we will see that we have our new sample1 database created. So these are some very basic steps in order to create a new database. The database that we just created is an empty database. It doesn't have any object at all. So, for example, if we try to look at the tables, you can see that there are no tables at all. We don't have any views. We don't have any other objects at all. So, in the next lesson, we will cover the topic of creating our first table. We will see how to create a new table, how to add some columns to that table, and I think that is all for now. Thanks for watching.